All right, guys, welcome. I appreciate everyone all over the place coming in. Canada, as Tracy said, rocking the house here. We've got interest from all over the world here, and that's pretty exciting because this really is a worldwide product. It knows no boundaries when it comes to fuel. It's really the topic of the year is fuel prices and how people can save on fuel. So let's go into some of these slides here. We're going to talk a little bit about saving on fuel costs, lowering emissions, saving on maintenance, and then more power as far as horsepower goes. This is a pretty amazing product and it has 35 years of research in it. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. 4 billion gallons. When we talk about fuel products out there, especially fuel tabs and fuel catalysts, fuel enhancers, treatments, etc. This product that we have here is a patented product with 35 years of research. It has over 4 billion gallons of gas in over 22 countries around the world. So this has been tested, it's been tried, it's been put through the ringer. This formulation is the fourth formulation that this formulator has created, making it better and better and better every single time. We'll talk a little bit about the history. Again, this is a worldwide patent, not just US, not just Canada, but worldwide. And really before this product, there were no other solid fuel catalysts on the market. I mean, back in the day, people were putting mothballs in their cars to boost the octane, because mothballs used to contain naphthalene in it. They don't do it anymore, and mothballs aren't made of that anymore, but that used to be the thing, and that was a solid catalyst back then. Today, obviously, we're far more advanced. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to create a product like this, but fortunately, our formulator is one. He is a PhD chemist, and like I said, 35 years of research, 4 billion gallons of gas, or fuel, I should say, because this particular product we'll talk about is good for all hydrocarbon fuels. We're talking gas, diesel, biodiesel, kerosene, home heating oil. This really, any type of hydrocarbon fuel, this product works with. So here's a little bit of a timeline here. I like to say this is where it began in 1986. It started in 1994, and we're going to take it to the moon in 2022. 1986, our formulator and the founder and the creator of this patent, he actually was creating and working on burn rate modulators for the Hercules rocket program for NASA. And in 1988, he started his own company actually formulating and manufacturing rocket fuel for NASA. So as an employee, as a scientist, as a chemist, he worked on the what ends up being part of the formula and part in the patent to the product that we have today, with organometallic compounds, and we'll talk about that. But this is the long history. So after and during his NASA manufacturing contract, he also started creating a consumer grade product. And we say consumer grade, we're talking about heavy machinery, just non-governmental customers. So we're talking about heavy equipment, mining facilities, automobiles, trucks, tractor trailers. I mean, literally anything with an engine, including motorcycles, mopeds, they were putting in this product to see what results and what kind of testing that they could do. And what was pretty amazing about this is how versatile it is. So I've got binders here of testimonials from 1994 forward of all sorts of machinery, from generators to processing plants at sand pits, to big power generations in India, 22 countries, right down to the moped in Mexico and the motorcycle in Utah that they've had testing on with the dyno machine. So a lot of testing. It is the most tested fuel additive, I believe, out there. And that's what you get when you have a scientist that formulates something. It's not good enough to just be a good quote unquote marketer, right? To tell people. They really want the science behind it, and they certainly have done that, and we'll go through some of that. 2006, they had found a pre-activated hydrocarbon, and it's what they use in the formula today. This pre-activated hydrocarbon is really it's almost the star of the show. So the thing about most of these products out there, they're 2 ingredient products, right? It costs probably 6, maybe 8 cents in raw material to create these other fuel tabs that are out there. It costs more just in the micro encapsulation of one of our ingredients than it does their entire tab. So this pre-activated hydrocarbon is really, it absorbs heat, tremendous absorber of heat. It wraps itself around ferrocene. Now, I'm not a scientist, but I'm trying to explain this, and as its way is explained to me. So it wraps itself in the ferrocene as an encapsulation tool and as a carrier. And so you'll notice with some of the liquids, and we'll go through that again, the liquid portion of the fuel additive in the liquids, that's the carrier, right? The active ingredient's very small percentage in it. And the rest of it is a carrier that kind of cushions and protects the active ingredients from oxidation, from being flammable. That's really one of the major reasons, and also anti-gelling, and we'll go through that in a minute. But 2011, they applied for the patent worldwide. It got accepted. In 2022 is where we come in, and again, we're in right now 22 countries and plan on expanding from there. So billions of gallons of fuel treated, billions of customers, or millions of customers, and millions of vehicles out there. Let me give you one pretty exciting example here. This is a case study that they did with Walmart, actually down here in Brooksville, Florida. They did a 5-month test on Walmart in their transportation department on their big trucks. And what they found overall over that 5-month period was an 8% increase in miles per gallon. So if you look at that in Walmart numbers, as far as how many gallons and how much they spend on gas, that's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars saved in just fuel, not to talk about the increase in power and the other benefits that Walmart found from using that product. This is the problem really right here. It is carbon buildup. This is the enemy. Every time I see a picture like this of carbon buildup, I always think of those commercials back when I was younger where they showed, this is your healthy lung and this is your lung on cigarettes, where it's kind of the blackened lung type of thing, or this is your brain and this is your brain on drugs. This kind of reminds me of that type of photo where this is really, and you think about disease in the body, you don't feel it, you don't really see it until far after it's already taken hold inside the body. And the very, very similar with the carbon buildup in your car, you don't really see it, you don't really feel it until it becomes a problem, right? So and even some of the effects like the lower fuel economy and loss of power, you don't really see right off. It's a slow progressive decline that eventually you have the aha moment and look at the tank and say, I was getting 25 miles to the gallon, I'm only getting 19 now. What's the problem? Well, the problem is carbon buildup, and it affects almost every part of your automobile. Everything from the knocking sound, hard starts, that has to do with the type of fuel, the fuel filter, catalytic converter has a lot to do with this, and we'll talk about that as well. Fuel efficiency, corrosion, the things you can't see are really the most damaging when it comes to carbon. Now, carbon buildup is unburned fuel. The way that fuel burns in the combustion chamber, it is not the heat or the way that it is burned or catalyzed in the combustion chamber is not equal. If you think about fuel as small and large compounds or molecular structures, you'll come to understand that the smaller structures are getting a little bit more oxygen. They're burning faster than the larger hydrocarbon clusters, which are burning a little bit slower. And the temperature variations in your engine running from 200 to 1200, all those little hot spots, wherever carbon is built up in your combustion chamber, it starts to ignite and create pre-ignition in some cases, where it lights before the spark plug or the glow plug lights. It actually catches on fire and has the fuel pre-ignite, and that causes all kinds of problems in the combustion chamber. But carbon, I'm kind of ranting a little bit, but carbon is really the enemy of the car. It's abrasive, it's acidic, all kinds of issues with carbon. And so what this product does, it does multiple things, but one of the major things that it does is that it cleans your engine, right? It cleans your fuel system. It gets rid of all this carbon, and it does it in a pretty unique way. Now, everyone can say they do this and they do that and they do this with their products, and that's perfectly fine. Not trying to knock any really one particular product, trying to knock everyone saying that they can do the same things as we can do, really when they can't. So let's talk a little bit about this. This is elementary school, schematic of your fuel system. You have the fuel tank, you have the fuel filter, the engine, the catalytic converter, and your exhaust, right? Pretty self-explanatory, but all of these little processes, all of these little points here make a huge difference in the efficiency and the effectiveness of combustion. So where our tab enters the system, we throw it into the fuel tank, and what happens immediately is you start to have a reaction, a chemical reaction at the molecular level. In fact, if you look at some of these other products, put them into your tank, take the fuel, and then test it, you would be able to identify that product as an additive to fuel. Okay, if you took a sample of our treated fuel and did tests on it, you would not find, it would be undetectable, the tab and the chemical compounds, because it becomes part of fuel. The hydrocarbon, the pre-activated hydrocarbon carrier, that's one of the ingredients in this formula, is actually comes from fuel. So when you put this tab into your fuel, if anybody's seen the dissolution test that I did with the two different tabs out there, you'll see that ours dissolves very, very quickly. It's the fastest dissolving tab solid that's out there because of the way that it's built and because of the hydrocarbon carrier being a byproduct of natural gas, right? So it becomes part of the fuel again and practically undetectable. One of the only ways you actually can detect this in the gas is that the formulator and the manufacturer actually puts a little marker in the formula, right? A little marker that they can detect. And they do that because if there ever happens to be, there never has been in 35 years, but if there ever happens to be some sort of insurance claim, or if they want to test the parts per million of the product and fuel, they're able to identify this marker that they've put into this formula, and they can test the parts per million and the quantity of the tab in the fuel. So as soon as we put this in the fuel tank, it starts to dissolve, it starts to work at a molecular level, it starts to stabilize the fuel. This is a really huge part of it because in fuel you have these, they call it these washed gums or unwashed gums, these gums that actually make carbon even stickier when it goes into your combustion chamber in your engine. And then you have all water and you have all these other contaminants in there that this product starts to emulsify the water, disperse it. It bonds with some of the water molecules to make it more flammable, and then it starts to modulate the burn rate. And so this is getting really sciencey, and the next slide's even worse. But if you're a geek like me, you'd really appreciate it. And I won't spend too much time on it, but I think it's really important to understand how it works in order for you to explain it to somebody else, not in this particular way, but just the overview. But what happens with, they call it the first step. And what that basically means is that every type of reaction first has a first step, right? It's the slowest step in any type of reaction. So I always relate it to like a water tower. If you imagine the water tower being the reaction, right? And then you think of somebody shooting a bullet hole into that water tower and the water coming out, that would be the slowest step, right? Of getting that water out, of the entire reaction of releasing all of that water. Whatever the slowest step is, that's as fast as that reaction can happen. And this is what happens with combustion and unburnt carbon, is that the reaction is all over the place, right? You have different degrees from 200 to 1200. You have different size molecular clusters, hydrocarbon clusters that burn at different temperatures and different rates. And it burns so fast in one area that not all the hydrocarbon is burned in other areas. So it becomes carbon. What a modulator does is that it lowers the temperature where combustion can happen. right? And then it slows the process of combustion. So all of the carbon in the hydrocarbon in the fuel is burnt. I hope that makes sense. Because it is really pretty a spectacular process if you think about it. It slows the rate and it evens the temperature, disperses it so that all of the carbon burns. So where you'd have normal carbon or hydrocarbon that burnt at, we'll say, 600 to 800 degrees, it now can burn as low as 200 degrees. So it's allowing more of the carbon, more of the hydrocarbon to burn and less carbon buildup. So that happens in the fuel tank before it even hits your combustion chamber in your engine. That frees up your filter from contaminants in water and things like that, which is it doesn't seem like much, but it puts a strain on your pump. It takes away from the efficiency of the vehicle as a whole, as it's calling for more energy, more fuel, and the pump is working overtime. And if you're clogged, you're going to have all kinds of issues with starting and idling and things like that. Going into engine, I think we kind of went over that quickly of what it does. One of the other big parts, and we'll talk about this the next slide, is hydrocarbon redox. And it's not redox, that happens too, but redox is the recycling of carbon. And what our product does, it works very differently than anything with like amine compounds or any type of detergents in it. This recycles the carbon inside your combustion chamber. So it uses every bit of energy, and it takes what used to be waste and turns it back into energy again, and then puts it out of your exhaust 70 to 80% cleaner than the emissions before our product. Catalytic converters, you kind of overlook these a little bit, and I'm going to show you a picture of one in a second, but catalytic converters are really important because they not only keep the combustion between the manifold and the exhaust, but it also filters obviously all of the unwanted emissions. It doesn't filter all of them, but when it becomes clogged or when there are obstacles or obstructions, it ends up doing all kinds of things, not only to the emissions coming out, but backfiring up into, as far as pressure, up into your engine. So having a clean catalytic converter is super, super important. And of course, the exhaust we just talked about. I'm not going to go over this, but you can, again, I'll move this over this, and you can take a look at this, slow it down. Low temperature combustion, we talk about lowering the temperature. One of the cool things about this product, when we talk about redux, is that one of the benefits of putting this product into your tank and it going through its process of burning more of the carbon and more of the fuel completely, it actually lends an electron to the acidic carbon that is formed on your engine. So what it ends up happening, because our product is a base when in the combustion process, right? So it lends an electron to the acidic hydrocarbon that's resistant to combustion. And so it allows us to be able to burn more of the fuel. And what detergents do, detergents or amine compounds, or however you want to market it and spin it, detergents, they wash the engine. Okay, they wash the engine. What ends up happening is you have these carbons being washed off of your engine. So it does work in that way. But what happens is these carbon deposits, they go down and end up in your oil and out the exhaust. This is why if you read any of the liquid directions, or like Techron from one of the gasoline companies, you'll see it says to use when you up until your 3,000, 4,000 mile oil change. Because what happens with detergents, can everyone hear me okay? Just wave or nod. Yeah? Okay. I'm just getting an internet signal here, so hopefully everyone can hear me. So what ends up happening is these detergents go into your oil and start degrading your oil. The lubricity of the oil, how well it can lubricate, the viscosity, how thick it is, all starts to become degraded. And that's why they require you to not use it more than twice sometimes. And then make sure you use it and change your oil after you're using it, because your oil is now degraded. They've actually done tests, and we'll show you some of these later on, where they've taken this product, they've put it into engines, right? And then every 3,000 to 4,000 miles, they've checked the oil. And because this burns all of the carbon, doesn't allow this carbon to build up, and it actually prevents carbon from forming again when it's using this product, your oil is much, much cleaner. And you could literally go longer distances between oil changes. Now, I'm not going to give you any particular time frame because every car is going to be different. But the particular test that we did, they ran every 3 or 4,000 miles. They tested the oil for any metallic flakes, any degradation at all, and again, lubricity, viscosity, did blot tests, and to see when the oil changed to the point where it was degraded enough that needed to be changed. And they went almost 20,000 miles, checking it every 3 to 4,000 miles using this product because of all the carbon that was not deposited into the oil. And so it lubricates your engine as well. So it lubricates it, it cleans it. Really, this is the dollars. When we talk about saving money, this is really where the money is saved, is in the cleaning and in the maintenance, the maintenance free portion of what this product does. It really stops a lot of problems from happening before they even start. So here's an example of a catalytic converter. Now again, these are actual, except for the bottom photo, obviously that's nobody's, it's a sample, but the two top photos are actually came from using this formula. This isn't cut and pasted from someone else or stolen from the internet somewhere. These are actually, this particular one on the right hand side was one on the left was from a 100,000 mile vehicle. That's the catalytic converter. You can see what it looks like. The one to the right was a 70,000 mile catalytic converter. What ended up happening was a auto dealership told this gentleman that his catalytic converter was bad, and that he needed to change it, and that was the cause of all their problems. So they ended up cutting out or changing the catalytic converter, still had all the same problems, and this was the catalytic converter that they actually not charged him for, but that's the one that they took out of his car after 70,000 miles using this formula in his gas. And you can see the huge difference. Again, to the left, this was a cat engine from a big truck. Just shows the degradation of the metals and how clean it looks to the right. Even with the slightest carbon buildup or dust, I call it, because it can literally be wiped off with a paper towel. So they've had complete engine rebuilds. And we have some testimonial from a cat dealer, or complete engine rebuilds where they literally could just wipe off the carbon instead of using harsh chemicals like sulfuric acid, and you could see the serial number on the block. That's how clean this engine was when they broke it apart and looked at all the parts. Another couple, literally, guys, I'm only showing you a few as far as testimonials here. There are thousands of testimonials, and we'll start to release these as we move forward. But this is Davis County Sheriff's Department. They ended up spending or saving $25,000+ on fuel compared to the previous year by treating their fuel with our product. Another, you can see the examples here, BMW, Volkswagen. Everyone's saving money, talking about power, more power, talking about more miles per gallon, which equals dollars in your pocket. People don't realize that if they're not using some sort of product like ours, that they're actually spending the money anyway, right? In the form of waste, in the form of less power, in the form of lower miles per gallon, in the form of performance maintenance. They're already spending the money. They just don't realize it until it has to come out of their pocket. Now, not only has this been tested in vehicles like cars and trucks, it's also been tested in boats and tractors and watercraft, chainsaws, weed whackers, large trucks, large machinery, grinding mills. I mean, you name anything, generators, even propane. Right now they're doing testing in Central America where they actually take the tab and they put it into the large cylinders of propane, and then they put their fill nozzle on it because propane's a liquid, and when they fill the tank, the tab drops to the bottom, and it treats the propane. And some of the results that they've found, I don't have the studies yet, but as some of them, is verbally expressed to me, was that the water, they tested the water boiling, and then they tested the water boiling with the treated propane, and it actually boiled the water faster using less propane by X and nump. And we'll get those numbers to you, but just the fact that it could even work with propane is pretty impressive to me. So it can work in everything. You can leave this into just a 5-gallon tank or a 2.5-gallon tank that you use for your lawn equipment or for your four-wheelers, ATVs, and it will be preserved for up to a year. And so you can treat all of your equipment with that just in one tank. You don't have to treat just the motor itself or in the fuel tank. You can actually put it into a storage container, and it will work that way as well. So again, saving on fuel, you're going to save on maintenance, lower emissions. You're save on fuel costs. Although this does not raise the octane, it acts like a product that raises the octane because it is an anti-knock property, and because it's an anti-knock product as well, you're able to lower the grade of octane as long as it doesn't jive with what your maintenance suggestion is from your manufacturer. So this product also, just on that note, is OEM compliant, meaning that we're one of the only products out there that comply with fuel standards of manufacturers, because we do not alter the chemistry of fuel at all. We're not an addition to fuel. We can't be detected in the fuel, and it becomes part of fuel. So technically we are one of the only OEM products out there where manufacturers would claim to be OEM compliant. Let's look a little bit about liquids. So everyone knows there's liquid products out there. One of the problems with liquids, whether it works or not, that's another slide for another time, is that they're probably 80 to 90% plus of carrier, right? So most of them are like naphtha, which they call it gasoline, but naphtha is a carrier. So the majority of these liquids, this particular safety data sheet is of a particular product that's out there, no names, but if you look at their own safety data sheet, it's 40 to 70% petroleum distillate, which could be mineral spirits, naphtha, anything like that. It's a carrier, right? It carries the ingredient, the main ingredient, which you look down here, and it's less than 10% of the catalyst material. That's the active ingredient. And all these ingredients in between, like the amine, the acrylic copolymers, all of those are anti-gel, anti-oxidation agents. It basically 70-90% of it is to protect just that less than 10% of active ingredient to keep it into a liquid form. So all of these active ingredients start as powders. Okay, even the tabs, they start as powders, and then they put them into the liquid to become liquid. But in order to create a stability in the liquid, they end up having to add all these additional products, including detergents. And we talked about that. Anytime it says amine compounds, whether you want to put proprietary or magical or miracle or mystery, whatever, it's still the detergents. And it washes the carbon. It does not recycle the carbon in the way that we do. So heavy to ship, more expensive for customers to ship or to purchase, can't travel in certain modes of transportation like flight because it is a hazardous material in liquid, and the plastic and the packaging are just excessive. If you took 10 of our wrappers for our product, it would equal about 1 bottle cap in weight of most liquid products out there. Okay, here's this is a little controversial slide I made up, but I think it's important because I'm not trying to bash any particular companies. I'm just trying to show you the Me Too movement out there with products that try to copy us. So this product, again, our product, 35 years of research, billions of gallons of fuel, millions of cars, millions of customers. I mean, literally clinical studies, lab reports, all the fancy stuff like graphs and pie charts and all of that. We've got literally binders to back all of this up. It's not the stuff that's stolen from the internet, pictures of 50 people using the same photos, which I'll show you that here. But this just goes to show you three of the products that are in tab form that are quote unquote competition out there. You look at their safety data sheets, and I circled it in red. They're all the exact same product, because one company, Combustion Technologies, actually makes all three of those products. So these products that try to separate themselves from each other, that try to make themselves, put marketing spin on it, they're really just trying to capture the market right now because of what's happening with fuel prices. Meanwhile, we have a product that's been out in the market, no matter if the prices were high, the prices were low, or anywhere in between. 35 years of this product being out there and servicing communities from around the world. If you look on the left, you'll see this graph. This is just came back, and you look at the date, 5/5/2022, so just this month. 2 ingredients in this product. So it's not just me talking. You can listen to somebody and they can yap and say whatever they want. But when I have the lab results just came back from one particular product, which is all the same ingredients for all 3 products, you can see that they're all the exact same. They have 2 ingredients, and that is it. Really not much else to say. Now, does it work? Are people getting better miles per gallon? Absolutely. Anything with ferrocene in it, which is an organometallic material, they call it, people use Nobel Prize winning material, product ingredients, compounds. They'll say organometallic. I mean, there's NASA. I mean, they'll use all kinds of catchwords. This all came from us. It all came from the studies 35 years ago from the formulator that worked at NASA, blah, blah, blah. So everything is regurgitated in marketing to make it sound like they're different, but really they're the exact same product. This formula is probably 6 months old and costs about 8 cents, 6 cents to even make as far as raw material. So this is actually, I just wanted to show this because I don't want people saying, well, Dan said this and Dan said that. He has nothing to back it up. I mean, this came just this month from a lab right in Utah. So here's another example. Again, we're never going to steal someone else's claims, testing, photos, results. We're always going to be honest with you guys. We're always going to keep it real. These are just some examples. I mean, literally the same 5 companies are using the exact same chart online to market their product. And none of these products are where that chart actually originally came from. So it is all marketing, it's all money, it's all baloney. But anything with ferrocene, you are going to see some miles per gallon increase. Absolutely. Will it do everything else that we're talking about that our product can do? Absolutely not. And we can prove it through our research. No one else is breaking down engines. No one else is doing the kind of lab testing and have the lab results that we have. Nobody has it out there. You just saw one back a few slides ago, actual lab test that we did just to show that our product actually helps with unwashed gums in fuel, which is the sticky part that helps carbon. We didn't have to do that. That wasn't something that we're like, oh, he doesn't do unwashed gums, so we had to kind of prove it. That's not why it was done. It was done because this guy is a scientist and he wants the proof not only for himself but for his customers as well. Again, formulated PhD chemist, rocket scientist, billions of gallons. I'm beating this into the ground. I know that. EPA registered, 35 years of research, guys. This is the real deal. All other products, especially the tabulated products, any type of solid fuel catalyst, those are all based off of our technology. And in fact, there have been several lawsuits, including one of the companies that was just on that last slide, because they tried to infringe on our patent. We ended up suing them, and what ended up happening, they had to reformulate their product to a lesser product, which is the 2 ingredients that you see now. So we have a 0 harm guarantee here. We guarantee that no harm is going to come to your engine by using our product. If you use it as directed, you will never have any issues, no negative side effects. We have insurance that covers worldwide problems. We've never had any type of claims. There's never been any negative side effects that anyone's ever claimed from using the product. Everything has always been positive, and we've had some amazing results. But this is our claim. We will have a 100% no harm guarantee on the product. It is safe for all gas, all diesel engines, all hydrocarbon engines, whether it's a moped or a